Thanks for logging on to Wayne.com for another edition of Inside the Zone. I shouldn't say another edition because it is the regional finals championship edition.
That's right. It's a special
of
edition.
Inside the Zone with Tom Davis of the News Sentinel. I'm Glenn Marini. Only one team left in 5A as we get right into it, and kind of as many people predicted and as history has shown, Snyder beating Homestead, and Snyder's got a tough matchup this week at Spooler Stadium when they take on Fishers.
Well, once you get in the regional round, every matchup's going to be tough. No bad teams advance to the regional as far as this is concerned. So yes, Snyder does have a very difficult matchup. Fishers is 11-1. They avenged their only loss earlier in the season to Hamilton Southeastern. They smoked Hamilton Southeastern last week, 28-0. They beat Carmel the week before, so absolutely Snyder has its hands full this week. Really, this is a week when you look at several of these teams about having faith. Do you have faith in the area teams to pull off maybe so-called upsets? Nobody had faith in Leo outside of the Leo people last week, but they got it done. And do you have faith in Snyder being able to knock off a really strong Fishers team? And we'll have to see. But they're going to have a lot to happen for them to do that.
I think if you're Kurt Tippmann, and I've seen Snyder play in person, I saw their entire game against Homestead last week, I think you're concerned about letting up when you get up. If you take a look back to the Dwenger game, they were up big early, they let it go away in the fourth quarter and ended up ultimately losing in extra time. And then you take a look at the Homestead game, I mean, they were up by 3 scores in the fourth quarter, and Homestead made a game of it and got it down to the final, where the final play actually mattered. Is that something you're considering? I mean, how do you get over that, I guess, if you're Kurt Tippmann, and make sure that does not repeat itself, especially with the team as talented as Fishers?
Well, that's not going to repeat itself because you're not going to be up big on Fishers. They're just too good of a team to do that. I'm not saying Snyder can't win this game, but I would be very shocked if they jump out to a 14-0 lead or a 21-7 lead, something like that. I think this will be back and forth quite a bit, so I don't think that'll be a concern this week. Snyder is doing it really on all facets of their game right now. Darren Barber's played well. He's really developed into a solid quarterback. John Nelson has been good all year. Akeem Kelsaw at receiver has been good all year. But Kendall Frederick really contributed last week with special teams. Got a field goal block, and everybody already knew what he could do in the defensive backfield. So Snyder has a really well-rounded game, and their defense can hang with Fishers. But I really don't think they have the offense to jump out to a 21-7 lead or anything like that on Fishers.
Akeem Kelsaw, we mentioned last week how John Nelson's kind of flown under the radar, but has had a really good season. I think Akeem Kelsaw may be somewhat the same way, just because Snyder hasn't put up so many points this season. But, I mean, he was dominant against Homestead with 3 touchdowns, 170 yards, 8 receptions. Is he a big key this week, would you think, against the Fishers team?
Well, certainly, and they need Darren Barber to get him the ball because I know Fishers will load up in the box and try to stop John Nelson. So Akeem Kelsaw is a talented enough player. He can make plays throughout the game against any type of defense, and certainly they'll utilize him in that regard. But Snyder, I'll tell you what they do is they never panic. They were down to Homestead. They didn't panic. They just battled back. They scored 37 unanswered points, I believe, against Homestead. And, they lost week 1 big to Lures. They didn't panic. They just went back to work and kept plugging away. So even if Fishers jumps out to a lead, or even a late lead, I don't think Snyder's going to panic. They've been there before.
All right, and taking a look at 4A now. A matchup that I don't think people foresaw this maybe when the season started, but congratulations to New Haven for the run that they're putting together. They'll be taking on Bishop Dwenger. And as far as this game goes, I guess it comes down to the running game, because you look at Mr. Hurst, and it doesn't matter who they play against. This guy's got almost 2,700 yards on the season. And according to your boy, Grant Segunda, a Yorktowner who coached the Eagles, he said, best he's ever seen. I read that in the Muncie Star Press this week.
Yeah, Tavon is very good. And I think a big reason why people didn't see this coming is because Tavon didn't play last year, so nobody knew that New Haven had the best running back in the state, or one of the best in the state. And Ramond Wright of Bishop Dwenger will take offense to that comment, because he's every bit as good, if not better, than Tavon Hurst. So, yes, these teams, if you read my notes, they're going to run, and then they'll run some more. But really, the difference between these two teams, both have excellent running games, but the difference is Dwenger has a better defense and Dwenger has a better quarterback. So I think Dwenger just brings more weapons to the table than New Haven can stop. When you look at what Patrick Ryan has done, he's in his 11th week as a starter, and he gets better every single week. He just makes the right throw. He threw a corner route for a touchdown against Columbia City that is an unbelievably difficult play for a high school quarterback to make. I mean, there are pro and college quarterbacks that overthrow guys or underthrow guys. He put it right on the money for that touchdown. His beautiful pass. And defensively, they forced Columbia City into turnovers, and you know how powerful Columbia City's offense has been all year. They just shut them down. So I just think that Dwenger has way too many assets for New Haven to control.
I'll disagree with you on the point that on the quarterback, Patrick Ryan's very good. Lucas Salerno, though, is also a pretty good quarterback, and with Hurst, man, he's picked apart some defenses with his arm this year. Also a pretty darn good hockey player. Although his hockey season is a little bit on hold. I would say they're relatively equivalent. But when you take a look at what New Haven has been doing against the NHC's elite this year, they struggled against the Homestead, against East Noble. The 3 losses, East Noble, Homestead, and I'm blanking right now. Columbia City. Because they're playing an elite team this week, as Delta was as well, are you a little bit concerned, or are they playing their best football at this point?
Well, I think New Haven's playing their best football right now, but like I said last week, Delta's team is down from your traditional Delta team. It wasn't as strong as it has been in years past, so not to take that sectional championship away from New Haven, I'm not doing that, but Bishop Dwenger is a whole nother level than Delta is. And I think that what's going to happen is Bishop Dwenger's defense is going to shut down the New Haven, let me back up a little bit, not shut down Tavon Hurst, but control Tavon Hurst to a degree, and that's really going to put a lot of pressure on the other offensive weapons that New Haven has, and I don't know if they can get that done. And meanwhile, on the other side of the ball, the Bishop Dwenger offensive line is as good as any offensive line in northeastern Indiana, and they not only have Ramond Wright and Patrick Ryan that we talked about, they have Jalen West, who torched Columbia City last week, and Ramond Wright said after the game he thinks Jalen West is every bit as good as him. So, they just have way too much for New Haven to deal with.
Chris Depew might agree with that, as Jalen West had a big game against East Noble in the playoffs.
Yeah, Jalen West is kind of the unsung hero there that, you focus on so many different things with Bishop Dwenger, but then you forget about that guy who just goes for 190 on you.
Yeah, or Cam Smith. They've got a lot of guys that can do a lot of different things that maybe don't get the headlines.